Hello and welcome to Maruti Suzuki Arena presents ESPN Cricket Info Match Day. We're in the middle of match between New Zealand and the Netherlands. What a contest it's turning out to be. I'm joined by Wasim Jaffer in studio and McClenaghan, who's joining us from Auckland. Wasim, we got to go to you first because I think you said 320 or 330 and you're pretty much spot on. What did you make of New Zealand's effort?
I think, yeah, they batted well. The top five, everybody got start. Three of them got 50s, couldn't convert into 100, but I thought they batted well. Tom Latham also getting some runs, which we talked about. I thought Netherlands bowled well up until those 44 or 45 overs. They just lost the plot in the last 5 overs. They missed those, bowlers in the death. We've seen that they still stick with spin, which can work at times, but mostly it doesn't. But I thought it was a good effort from both the teams.
Yeah, Mitch, it's strange because you'd say that it was actually a good bowling effort, and there were fits and starts where they were a little bit wayward and conceded 56 runs in those last 4 overs. But generally a good effort, and then they still end up conceding 322. So how do you sort of assess that?
Firstly, I thought you'd give us a bit more of a reaction after almost picking the score perfectly. That's outstanding, mate. But on the whole, yeah, I thought it was a very good bowling effort, actually. From the batting side, I thought New Zealand almost looked a bit like England were the other day against New Zealand. Almost a little bit complacent, a little bit lazy with some of the shot selection. But all kudos goes to Scott Edwards and his men. They really crowded the bat and kept the pressure on the whole time. And Ryan Klein, for me, although he didn't get the results on the scoreboard, his spell in the middle there where he caught pressure on with Scott Edwards up to the stump really kind of started pulling the game back in the Netherlands' favour.
And so it's interesting that you would actually say there's a bit of complacency for a team that ends up getting over 300 runs. Wasim, would you have wanted someone to kick on it? And I guess the person I'm thinking of most is Will Young, who came back nicely from that underperformance in the first match to score 70 this time. Yeah,
it was his opportunity, I would say, lost, even though he got 70. He had an opportunity to probably get 150, I would say. And then, when Kane Williamson back, he won't lose his spot. So I think he missed out. Very unlike, and I kind of agree. Sometimes when you play these teams, you take it a little lightly, no matter what you say or how much you talk about it. You kind of relaxed, somehow. But I think, yeah, one of them or probably 2 of them should have got 100+ scores. But I would say still a good effort. On the Netherlands part, I mean I'm surprised in both the games. They had the game under control, the way they bowled. They hold Pakistan to 286. Even today, they look like they will probably hold them to 290, 280. I'm surprised they don't choose to bat first. Something that they can look to. Now they're going to face some world-class bowlers chasing to 320 in the mind. So even if you aim to get 250, 260, they give themselves a very good chance if they bat first.
Yeah, we'll dissect a bit more on New Zealand's innings. But Mitch, just to Wasim's point there, why do you think it is that the Netherlands don't want to bat first? Is it maybe a bit of hesitance knowing the quality of the opposition attack?
Yeah, I don't know actually, because I think their side sets up to probably bat first and try and defend with the amount of bowling options that they've got and get a score on the board and back your fielding unit, which is the strength of their side, to be able to do the work in the park, to put the pressure on that's going to get good sides to make mistakes in a chase. And once the chasing and you lose a couple of quick wickets, a couple of singles with those guys crowding the bat, anything can happen. So, yeah, I think their style of cricket actually sets up to them to defend a total as opposed to chase one.
Yeah, and they obviously haven't decided to do that this time. So they've conceded quite a lot of runs there. Let's go back to Will Young's innings, Mitch, because he got that 70. It was quite a tentative start. Took 3 overs before the first runs were scored, but then it looked as though New Zealand were really going to go for it. And then I suppose he got out in disappointing fashion. Has he done enough so that when Kane Williamson is fit, he keeps his spot and they don't look to juggle that top order?
Yeah, well, him and Conway made me look like a fool. If they hadn't have wasted those 3 overs at the start, they would have got 380. But all in all, I mean, the Netherlands started well, didn't they? They really did. They put some pressure on. Will Young's more of that classical opener, so he's not going to take the scoring pressure off Devon Conway at the start. He's just going to go about his work the same way that Devon Conway does. And that's a solid start that Kane Williamson, Gary Stead want. That's why they went away from Finn Allen coming into this World Cup. And to be honest, he hasn't done anything really wrong. He got strangled down leg side. He had a really good series against Bangladesh. I think he was second top scorer in the series to Henry Nicholls. And even tonight, I thought he looked the goods. Again, just trying to muscle it, get that scoring rate up. And I don't mind the option that he took because he was actually trying to up the ante, knowing that he had a long batting lineup behind him.
And so would you say you'd keep him in the 11 when Kane Williamson comes back and maybe look to drop a Mark Chapman? Would that be the way to go?
Yeah, I think Mark Chapman will end up dropping out of the side. I think today he played ahead of Neesham because it is on a used wicket, so he comes back into the fold. But I think they'll go back to status quo. In the England series before New Zealand came to the World Cup, Rachin Ravindra scored a really nice 60 batting down at 6 or 7. So he can do the option at the top and at the death. And I think Will Young's done enough just to stay in the side for now in terms of what they want for the first half of the tournament, and that may change halfway through.
Okay, so Will Young likely to keep his spot then, according to Mitch McClenaghan. Let's move to Daryl Mitchell's innings. Also a little bit of a tentative start, but then played some glorious shots, including one of the biggest sixes of the tournament. Wasim, what did you think of his approach and his aggression?
Yeah, I think he's a very fine player, somebody who ups the scoring rate when he comes in. And he started, playing aggressively from the get-go. He got an opportunity, got a catch dropped, but he's a fine player. He's a very important player in that batting lineup, somebody who moves on as soon as he comes in, and he's not afraid to play big shots. He's a very clean striker of the ball. We've seen that against England when he got the 100, where they chased down big score. So he couldn't kick on and get 70 or 80, but I think he played a very good knock.
Yeah, and as you mentioned, he was dropped, and there were 2 chances in 2 overs there. They had the review that was umpire's call, and that was against Rachin, and then the dropped catch. Do you think that maybe rattled them a little bit or cost them something, apart from the runs from Mitchell, of course?
Yeah, if they had taken the catch, probably they would have thought they would have got 20 or 30 less, even though it's still 300 plus score. But it would have given them a little bit of momentum. Probably, the way they bowled the last 4 or 5 overs where they considered 50 plus in the last 4 wouldn't have happened, but just nature of the game. They fielded really well throughout the game. It's one of those things.
Yeah, and up to the 40th over, Mitch, it did look as though the Dutch bowlers would keep the New Zealand scoring rate under 6 and over. Then they only conceded 28 runs in the first 6 overs of the last 10. So things seem to be going well. In that period, did you see anything or pick up anything that they need to do for longer periods of time in order to keep sides below 300 or even 280?
Oh, look, I think they were a little bit slow to go to consistent change-ups. Pace on that wicket was easier to strike. We saw Buster later go to the slower ball, and Meakin as well. He went to the slower ball a little bit late in the piece, and there was some deviation off the surface. And if you're a New Zealand bowler, you would have been looking at that with a lot of interest, knowing, actually, do you know what? If we get into a situation where it starts to get a little bit tighter, let's just go to our change-ups, get that ball scuffed up. And there was a touch of tail at the end as well. So I think maybe backing the slower balls a little bit more. They were often trying to go for that full Yorker, and if you're not hitting your Yorker, that's just in the wheelhouse to go out of the park.
And maybe do you think they missed Logan van Beek a little bit there? Because as Wasim was saying, they used Aryan Dutt in the last 10, and it was working okay until it wasn't.
Yeah, they've used him in the past in that phase of the game, so he's no stranger to it. He obviously bowls with the new ball as well, so he knows what it's like to bowl to guys when they're trying to hit. I think he probably got a little bit greedy against Matt Henry when he came to the wicket, thinking that he might be able to get a wicket, and just went with a stock length ball, and that was a mistake. Henry hits the ball really, really well, and that kind of made his figures blow out a little bit more than they probably should have throughout this innings. I thought he bowled nicely. But, yep, on your point, Logan van Beek will be missed. He's a good exponent of bowling the wide Yorker, the wide slower ball, trying to stay out of the arc of the hitter, and that's what they missed.
Wasim, let's move to the innings that sort of got the momentum going in that last bit, which was Tom Latham's. And we did speak earlier about it being a lean year for him, about his run as captain. It's now his 4th half century as captain, which is actually not too bad, to be fair. What did you see in his innings that impressed you?
It's just a normal Tom Latham inning. He was busy from the start, and then when the opportunity presented, he played big shots. I mean, right till the end. I think up until then he was happy just rotating the strike, playing himself in. I thought, which was very smart. He wanted some game time. He's not been in the runs, and I thought he played well. Got a 50, no matter who you get against. If you get runs behind your name, you feel confident going into some important games ahead.
And New Zealand bat pretty deep. We saw Mitch Santner come in with a little cameo there at the end. Even Matt Henry 10 or 4. How important are those lower order runs?
I mean, not so much against Netherlands, but yeah.
Fair enough, I guess.
Against some good teams, and Mitch Santner is no muck with the bat. He's got some important runs for CSK when he played in the IPL. He's a very clean striker of the ball, very good cricketer in fact. The way he bowls, the way he fields, and he can contribute in the lower order. And Matt Henry again chipped in with a 6 or something. But yeah, I mean, important runs. If you want your lower order to contribute, I mean, not so much against Netherlands, but against some important teams, we've seen that it helps. Very, very, very much.
Yeah, we'll come to what we expect from Mitch Santner with the ball a little later. But one thing I have to ask, Mitch, Roelof van der Merwe, 38 years old and still pulling off some moves in the field. Another good catch. We had one Rahmat Shah a couple of days ago. I think this one, maybe not quite as spectacular, but a good catch from him. And usually when Roelof takes these catches against big teams, I'm thinking South Africa T20 World Cup, then some funny things can happen. Just what do you think of him as a cricketer, the catch itself, and kind of what it meant in the context of this innings?
Oh, look, first and foremost, a very good catch for a 38-year-old to turn the Titanic like that and get back to it and take it clean. I thought it was exceptional. But what he brings to this Netherlands side is that he's just the ultimate competitor. He really is. He never stops talking. He never stops marshalling the troops. So if you've got him at cover and you've got Scott Edwards behind the stumps, I mean, I'll tell you what, I'll be asking the skipper if I can go out to the deep square boundary just to give my ears a bit of a break. They're chirp, chirp, chirp the whole time. So they bring a lot of energy, and that's what you need. A lot of energy, a lot of enthusiasm if you're going to compete.
That's the kind of energy we've come to know from the Netherlands, which we saw them in Zimbabwe, where really it was that kind of Scott Edwards never being quiet, always having something to say behind the stumps. And in the end, that kind of enthusiasm, do you think they'll be a little bit disappointed that despite all of that, they've still conceded quite a large total?
Yeah, definitely. Like I said at the start of the show, I think that 280 they kept to Pakistan will be close to the lowest total they'll keep aside to, and if that's their benchmark, they really need to flip the script and look at maybe bowling second, setting a total and backing their fielding, because what Scott Edwards did really well was kept those short cover and short mid wicket in really close the whole time, and throughout this World Cup, you just cannot let teams meander through those middle phases and let them go at their own tempo. It's all about making sure the batters are going at your tempo in the field and keeping that pressure on. And that's what I really like about how the Netherlands play their cricket. And it's one of those things that if the biggest sides in the competition actually start to take that on board and see what pressure they just put on New Zealand in that middle phase, I think they'll go a long way to going deep in the tournament.
Yes, it's a great point on the middle overs there. The Dutch were conceding at 6.8 runs to the over between 21 and 40, and then, of course, the blowout at the end. So let's move now to how we expect them to go about their batting effort. I'm imagining someone's going to have to go big, and there'll have to be a couple of big partnerships. Wasim, who would you say needs to really bat through it, and what are we looking at in terms of the chase?
Well, obviously, one of the top four needs to, get big, and obviously turn their starts into a big score. It's not going to be easy, we know that, but they'll give them a lot more confidence if they get to a decent score and bat against this quality attack. I just feel that because they play against associate nations, this type of bowling first and then chasing sometimes can work, because you're not playing against the premium teams, but against good teams it's not going to be easy. Even if it's 280, we've seen against Pakistan, they're going to struggle. So they just need to spend time, and if somebody gets in, you need to make it big.
Yeah, and the struggle may come, I guess, especially against the likes of Matt Henry and Trent Boult, Mitch. Those bowlers will be wanting to get themselves into even more rhythm and form, I imagine. What can we expect from them, and how much heat are they going to bring to this situation?
Well, that's a battle right at the top of the innings. I think Vikram Singh and Max O'Dowd against Matt Henry and Trent Bolt. And if Netherlands are going to have a chance in getting anywhere near this total, Vikram Singh's going to have to be able to negate Matt Henry, who's going to run the ball across him. And Vikram's very leg side dominant. So I think Matt Henry's a really nice matchup for squaring him up and nicking him off. So I'm really looking forward to watching that. And Bolt, we saw in the warm-up games, Australia against Netherlands, Mitchell Starc hit Max O'Dowd in front first couple of balls. So I think Bolt will be going for those pads as well. So don't take your eyes off the screen, because I think it's all going to happen in the first couple of overs.
Yeah, and even if it doesn't, then they follow up with Lockie Ferguson, who we're expecting to bring a lot of pace to the situation. Is it really important for him to have a good performance here because Tim Southee's coming back and they're going to be looking at possibly the makeup of the attack?
Yes and no. I guess from Lockie's point of view, you just wanted to come in and get some overs under his belt after that slight niggle that he's had. And in terms of his preparation for the rest of the tournament, you just want him to have an okay performance today and really kind of save himself the engine for the big games, where he's really going to have to fire up. But that all well and said, I know Lockie personally, and he's a competitor, so he'll be going out there to knock the poles out of the ground. But one person I would suggest anyone staying up to watch in New Zealand, or it's good time zone in India at the moment, or anywhere around the world, is Mitchell Satner. Watch the way Mitchell Satner changes his pace and drops the ball on the same length time after time with all those little variations that he's got. He is world class. He's one of the best spinners going around in world cricket at the moment, and is just a joy to watch.
Wasim, would you agree with that? Is Mitch Santner the one to watch in this second innings?
Yeah, definitely. I mean, the way he holds up and throws outside the arc if somebody is going, especially in the wide ball format. He's not an easy guy to hit. He's very clever the way he uses his pace. So yeah, I completely agree.
And then in terms of a prediction, you did mention that Netherlands will maybe just want to look to keep up pace, to hit certain milestones and targets. What would you say they're looking for?
Well, I think I'll be happy if they get to 250. I think that'll be a good score to get to. It'll give them a confidence, and that is something which they should look to. I mean, chasing 322 is going to be a big task, but if they reach 250, I think they've done a good job.
Yeah, Mitch, net run rate may come into the equation somewhere down the line here. So for New Zealand, they probably won't want the Dutch to get anywhere near 250, will they?
Look, they'll be targeting as little as possible. And I'm just going to go one run under Wasim as well. So if they get under that, then I look better. So it could be 1-1.
Okay, well, we're going to see at the end of the show whether we've got a draw between Mitch McClenaghan and Wasim Jaffer, or if Wasim's going to take it 2-0. This is not just a cricket show here. We've been talking rugby, football scores, everything, all on Maruti Suzuki Arena presents ESPN Cricket Info Match Day. Don't forget that while the second innings goes on, you can download the ESPN Cricket Info app, and that's where you're going to see all the news and the scores and all the pieces as they come in. There'll be lots of analysis on this match. And then, of course, do join us after the match, where we'll have all the analysis with Wasim and Mitch.
Stunning looks, then swift,